came across here on Bleacher Report, wanted to kind of give my take before the NBA season's kicking off here in a couple of days. And basically, we got the author Grant Hughes from Bleacher Report going to go over the 2021 NBA trade deadline deals to dream about. And of course, we're going to be starring with Mr. James Harden. My thoughts entering into the season, I'm not sure if James Harden is going to get traded or not. There's been reports by different quote unquote sources that either Philadelphia or either the Miami Heat will be able to make a trade package for James Harden within this week. Do I believe that's going to go down? I do not. I expect James Harden to stay with the Houston Rockets for the whole season, and I expect him to get traded next offseason. I could be wrong. Who knows what happens? I just don't think that the Philadelphia 76ers front office with Daryl Morey, I doubt he'll want to trade Ben Simmons as he stated in a quote a couple of days ago, let alone the Rockets stated they don't want to trade him over to Philadelphia. Then on the Miami Heat side, Pat Riley and the crew, they do not want to trade away Tyler Herro. They want to keep him on the franchise. They also don't want to let go of Bam Adebayo. Ever since Giannis Antetokounmpo has re-signed a 5-year extension with the Milwaukee Bucks, I expect the Miami Heat that they should be able to be motivated and let alone intrigued to go for James Harden. That may be the case, that may be not. But with the Houston Rockets, they will love to have Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo, Kendrick Nunn, some of these other young cats and draft picks as well. I doubt Miami's going to be able to do that, but we'll see. We'll see. So let's jump into this article here. Trade deadline deals to dream about. Mr. Hughes. All right, number one, James Harden finally lands with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this is a pretty straightforward trade. If Harden were to get swapped, it would have to be for Ben Simmons. It would not be the other way. It would not just be Joel Embiid and you keep Ben Simmons. It has to be Ben Simmons. You can also throw in some other moving pieces like a PJ Tucker and an Eric Gordon, as well as Philadelphia could throw in a Tobias Harris with Ben Simmons with that big contract, or they can just throw in Ben Simmons and I'm trying to think of another player in that mid-salary cap like Shake Milton, maybe one other player. I can't really think of on the spot. But let's see what they have as of right here. All right, looks like he doesn't have the moving pieces within this trade. So James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers, it would have to be most likely for Ben Simmons, if anything, within that. If you're the 76ers, I want to keep Ben Simmons on my franchise with Joel Embiid. I don't want to rush the process and pretty much have a 3-year experiment with James Harden, who's around 31 years of age, kind of in that mix. So I'm not doing that if I'm the 76ers. If I'm the Houston Rockets, I pull the trade. This makes the most sense that James Harden is done with his era and momentum in Houston. Now, if you can bring in Ben Simmons, who is young, around 23, 24 years of age, you make that move if you're the Houston Rockets. But if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, no need to do so. But who knows? Who knows? Even though Daryl Morey, quote unquote, said that he wants to keep Ben Simmons, you never know the true intention. There could be stuff behind the works to make Ben Simmons feel good, and then they trade him off. Who knows? Atlanta goes for Rudy Gobert. Interesting. So right now with the front court, you do have Collins and Clint Capella if you're the Atlanta Hawks. You do have a new rejuvenated team with a lot of moving pieces, as in Gallinari and Bojanovic are now scorers that join Trae Young in the crew in Atlanta. So they're looking good. They're looking to be around a 7th through a 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, if you're able to pretty much pull up Rudy Gobert, who did sign a 5-year extension with the Utah Jazz, that would be pretty interesting. If you're the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell, and if you're giving away Rudy Gobert, you're going to need some star power and a replacement. The Atlanta Hawks don't really have those assets, so I'm very curious to see what he has to say here. So he's saying that Atlanta could include Kevin Porter, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Onyeka Okongwu, the new rookie. That's not going to go down with Rudy Gobert's getting paid around 28 mil a season. These other young cats are barely even reaching a third of that overall. And I'm pretty sure he made this article right before Rudy Gobert signed the extension, so that doesn't make any sense. The Miami Heat pivot from the Giannis plan. So they're probably going to go into James Harden right here. Let's see what he has to say about it. And Miami, they did bring a bunch of one-year deals for these players. So Goran Dragic pretty much signed that 1 year. Andre Iguodala has 1 year left of his contract. Myers Leonard 1 year, and Avery Bradley. He's saying that basically, if they're going away from Giannis, they would have to target Bradley Beal. Interesting. And the Washington Wizards would demand Tyler Herro, 2 first-round picks. If you're the Miami Heat, you would rather target James Harden than Bradley Beal. At least I would, if I'm giving away Tyler Herro, some of these younger players and picks. So Bradley Beal is going to stick with the Washington Wizards. They already have Russell Westbrook, so they're going to keep it that way as it is. Joel Embiid for Karl-Anthony Towns. Okay, let me think about this since this is free-flowing for me right now. Okay, so the Philadelphia 76ers, with their center Joel Embiid, the process, would swap for Karl-Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Who says no? I say no. That's not going to happen. The Minnesota Timberwolves right now drafted Anthony Edwards. They brought in D'Lo to pair alongside with Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be a failed experiment, but since you're in the stacked Western Conference, you're not going to make the playoffs if you're the Timberwolves. Let me repeat myself. The Timberwolves will not make the playoffs. They still are a somewhat nice of a team, but they'll probably finish off with an 11th seed in the Western Conference. The Philadelphia 76ers are going to be a top 5 to a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Doc Rivers, and the other role players and moving parts. This doesn't make sense for both sides. Joel Embiid is quote-unquote an alpha, but he needs to improve more of his game to pretty much lead his team further down the stretch. Karl-Anthony Towns is a beta. The Minnesota Timberwolves will still choose Karl-Anthony Towns, and Joel Embiid can be injury prone, so it doesn't make sense within on this side. Lastly, he's got Dallas gets bold and adding Jonathan Isaac. Okay, and this, before looking into the trade, Dallas could really use a young scoring wing, let alone defender. And I never really thought about this before, but Jonathan Isaac would actually be ideal for the Dallas Mavericks. The Orlando Magic have really no direction. I'm pretty much they're going to blow it up after this season or midway. I do not expect the Magic to make the playoffs. And Jonathan Isaac, being around 22, 23 years of age, he's around 6'10" as a small forward. That would be very ideal for the Mavericks. And Jonathan Isaac can play as a glorified Finney Smith Jr. or whatever his name is, Finney Smith, on the Dallas Mavericks, who was also a forward, who's around 6'8". Jonathan Isaac would be ideal. I'm trying to think of the moving parts that would include with. I'm not too sure about his contract. I think he's probably getting paid around $7 million. So if the Dallas Mavericks can throw in some picks, of course, and the Mavericks do have some nice young pieces, so they can maybe make that work, but I doubt the Magic are wanting to let him go. Let's see what they say here. Trying to see if they throw in Kristaps Porzingis, which I would not do. And if you're the Mavericks, even though you want that dynamic duo of Porzingis and Luka, you gotta be your eye around Porzingis and his health. Hopefully he's not injury prone. So the Mavericks do have rotation players. You have Maxi Kleber, Josh Green, Jalen Brunson. You can throw in picks. The Mavericks have a lot of nice young pieces with potential. So who knows? Maybe Orlando does it. If you're the Dallas Mavericks, that's actually a really good signing, or let alone a trade piece to go for. I never really thought about that before in the past, but I'll give credit towards here. But I'm going to end off the video right here. Didn't expect too much on this. I'm going to look at the other articles here in Bleacher Report, give my take before the NBA season. But overall, the main headline is Mr. James Harden. Let's see if he goes to the Philadelphia 76ers and or possibly for the Miami Heat. I doubt the Brooklyn Nets, but there's been talks that the Nets have elevated their trade talks. That's going to be very interesting on that side. We'll kick it off more on there. I'll make more videos on this.